Welcome to another MakeMusic tutorial, this time focusing upon the role of quantization in music software. In digital music technology terms, quantization refers to the process of aligning a set of musical notes to a very precise setting. This results in notes being set either directly on beats or on exact subdivisions of beats. Although quantization can potentially ruin the humanistic feel of a recorded take, it's often a necessary evil needed to clean up miscellaneous errors and/or rhythmic inaccuracies. So, let's get started. First, I'm going to pull up a rhythm. Let's say, for instance, we wanted to play this 2-measure rhythm in 4/4 time on the note G. You can see in the first measure I've got quarter notes and a quarter rest occurring on beat 3. And then in measure 2, a combination of eighth notes and eighth rests. If I wanted to record this rhythm into a music program, in this case I'm going to utilize GarageBand as my example, I could simply just hit the record button and give it a shot. Now, if I close this window and double click on what I just performed, that region, I could look at it down here in the piano roll edit window. Notice that the edit window is set up to a grid. If I go to this grid ruler button, I can change the view of this grid based on rhythmic durations. If I set it to just a whole note, notice that there is one bar line, in this case one grid line per measure, starting at the beginning of each bar. If I change it to a half note grid, then there will be grid lines for every half note duration, basically 2 grid lines per measure in 4/4 time, one starting on beat 1 of the measure, the other one occurring on beat 3 in the measure. If we set the grid to quarter notes, there will be 4 grid lines per measure, one for each beat, beat 1, 2, 3, 4 in every measure. And then finally, for this example, if I set my grid to eighth notes, you can see that there are now 8 grid lines per measure. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. When you look carefully at what I performed according to this grid, you can see that some of my notes did not occur precisely in time. I was a little bit late. Some of my notes were a little bit longer than I would have wanted them to be. But in either case, what I can now do is use the grid to quantize my performance, to make it more accurate. So, what I could do is I could select notes and drag them to where I wanted them to be. For instance, if I wanted these quarter notes, let's say, to be right on the downbeat, because I want this quarter note to be on the downbeat of beat 1, I could drag and move them right to the nearest quarter note line. Another thing that I could do is I could select a whole region of notes, and in this case I'll select these which were supposed to be eighth notes, and I can change my grid to eighth notes so you can see this better, and I can align all of these selected notes directly to the eighth note lines by telling the software to align to the eighth note. I can then resize my notes if I needed them to be absolutely precise. And when I look at my performance now in notation view, what I will see is an exact version of my example. Quarter, quarter rest, quarter note, eighth, eighth, eighth note rest, eighth, 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 and then finally here, a little bit off on that last quarter note, but I could fix that by going back and changing my performance here. If we wanted to look at the same idea within Finale, what I could do is pull up the Finale document. I'll get rid of GarageBand here. And if I were to play something into Finale, I would have to deal with quantization settings within the Quantize menu. Right now, I'm going to set my quantizations in Finale to what they might be as a default when you first install the program. When you do this, your performance might not notate exactly as you would like. I'm going to use a new rhythm for this example. Instead of that previous rhythm, I'm going to just play in a simple little folk song, Hot Cross Buns. If I play it close, it should look like this. All right? Maybe I'll move that down so we can always see the original. Here we go. Finale will give me a 2-measure count off. Alright, not exactly what I wanted. Some of the notes were close, but I was a little bit off. You could hear it when I played in. There was a little bit of latency. But nonetheless, there are a couple things I could do. If I look at my original, the fastest note that I needed to play was an 1/8 note. So with that knowledge, if I go into the quantization settings for the program that I'm using, and I tell it that the fastest note duration that I want it to portray is an 1/8 note, and because I know that there are no fancy tuplets or mixed rhythms here, I could be much more precise and tell the software exactly what I'm trying to play. If I now select everything that I just played and tell Finale to retranscribe that performance, you'll notice that many of my mistakes go away. In this case, not all. I still had a mistake here. But the other benefit here to knowing exactly what kind of rhythmic duration that you're going to be performing is that even if I make some mistakes and play notes too quickly now, Finale will not give me anything faster than an 1/8 note, and it will pretty much give me a much better transcription. So in this case, I'm going to intentionally play my 1/8 notes a little bit off to show you the benefit of recording with the correct quantization settings. So even though I played notes much faster here that would have probably been notated as 16th notes before, Finale didn't do that. I still played late in the last measure, hence the rests, but this is the idea of quantization. It allows you to take a very specified group of notes and move them to a very specific place. So that will wrap up today's MakeMusic tutorial on quantization. As always, please take a moment to visit my site, MakeMusicTutorials.com, and leave a comment regarding this or other videos posted there. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.